Hello, everyone, and welcome to Cultivating Generous Congregations. As one of the instructors for this course, I want to thank you for being here. Thank you for taking the time and making the effort to work on generosity in your congregation and your context. And thank you for the work that you are doing in your churches. In this first video, we're going to look at what is generosity. And what I invite you to do first is to find a comfortable seat. We're going to enter into a brief time of meditation. So for some of us, a comfortable seat is sitting straight up with our feet flat on the floor. For others, our eyes will be open or closed. Find that comfortable position. And then take a deep breath in. And let it all the way out. And do that again, all the way down. And all the way out. I'm going to ring a bowl for us to start, and then I'll do that again at the end. As you continue to breathe, be mindful and grateful of the generous God in whose image we are made, who gives us life and breath, who surrounds us with friends and family, with nature that is so abundant and giving. Now I invite you to consider a time when someone was generous with you or generous to you. Picture that scene in your mind. Bring back the feelings of when someone was generous with you. Once you've got that, I invite you then to consider a time when you were generous with someone else or to someplace else. Again, picture it in your mind. Think of the feelings that accompanied that generosity that you offered. Now I'm going to read a quote about generosity from Christian Smith. And I invite you to just listen deeply and find a word or a phrase that settles in your gut, that catches you in the craw. Don't overthink it. Just see what pops out. Generosity is the virtue of giving good things to others freely and abundantly. It is a learned character trait that involves attitude and action, entailing both the inclination and actual practice of giving liberally. It is not a haphazard behavior, but a basic orientation to life. What generosity gives can vary: money, time, attention, aid, encouragement, and more, but it always intends to enhance the true well-being of the receiver. Like all virtues, generosity is in people's genuine, enlightened self-interest to learn and practice. What word or phrase sticks with you? I invite you to take a couple final deep breaths as we come back to one another. please bring the insights you gained from that practice to our first session together, as well as the stories that you recollected during the meditation. The quote, as I mentioned, was from Christian Smith, who, along with Hilary Davidson, co-authored the book The Paradox of Generosity: Giving, We Receive; Grasping, We Lose. You can find that quote and the citation on page 9 in your Cultivating Generous Congregations workbook. And you'll see it cited frequently throughout the book. Christian Smith is a social scientist working on the Generosity Project at Notre Dame. And the other paradox that they talk about in the book is that if generosity is so good for us, why don't we practice it more? So I'm glad you're here to learn to practice generosity more, and also to help others practice generosity more as a learned and practiced trait. One of the things that's been really important to me in generosity is how much it demonstrates how connected we all are. We are interdependent, and we are in this together. And it seems as though this time in history is demonstrating that to us, perhaps more than any other time in my life, and perhaps yours. I had the privilege of working in ministry alongside folks who were unhoused and extremely poor for 5 years, and they taught me generosity. These wonderful neighbors who had very little openly shared that with one another and with me. Whether it was somebody who needed money for getting their necessary medication, or sharing food that they had found, bringing it to my office and offering me a hamburger, when tomorrow they might not know where they would find food. Generosity cuts across all communities and is a place and a way for us to learn from one another, no matter who we are and no matter where we come from. Indeed, as Martin Luther King said, we are in this inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny together. I also learned from our indigenous neighbors that we belong to the land, as opposed to the land belonging to us, and that we are connected to, as they say, all my relations. Not only other people, but the animals and the plants and the sky and the earth and everything that is, all my relations. As you look at page 9 in your book, you also see there are different measures of generosity, because what we want to do in this course is to have a well-rounded, holistic picture that allows us to build a culture of generosity that is about money and also goes beyond money. So you'll see there financial generosity, volunteering, generosity of time, relational generosity, how do we network and engage with other people, neighborly generosity, that care that we provide when we have a cup of coffee with someone or bring a casserole to someone in need. And then self-evaluated generosity, how generous do you see yourself to be? When I look at those, it's helpful for me to think about people I know who are generous. Who can you think of that really exemplifies generosity in your life? I think of a friend of ours named Esther, who is always cooking and bringing food to people in need, who whenever she receives something, immediately writes a beautiful thank you note and puts it in the mail, who is giving of her time and herself and her being in so many ways, and she inspires me. Well, I look forward to being together soon here and hearing your stories, your models of generosity, and engaging and learning from one another. Before you move on to the Changing Landscape of Giving video, I would invite you to review pages 10 through 19 in your Cultivating Generous Congregations workbook. Thank you again for your generosity of time here, and I look forward to meeting virtually soon.